Hello BookTube, hello friends, welcome to Lizzie Faye Loves Books. I'm Elizabeth, and today is August 31st, and usually on the last day of the month I am in a reading crunch to try to finish as many books as I can by, the end of the day, and I've actually already finished two nonfiction books that I have been working on, and I still have a couple of others that I want to finish, including an audiobook, but I also wanted to squeeze in just one more for fun video before tomorrow hits. It's the first day of the month, and then I'm gonna have to start thinking about my monthly wrap-up and various other projects, and so I thought I would just take a minute to just do a fun video that I've been thinking about for a little while. Now, some of you may recall that several months ago I did a series of videos about books with titles that I love, books that have fantastic titles. And before that, maybe a couple of years ago, I did another video. It was an original tag video that I created called Bookish Boxes and Buzzwords. And I'm pretty sure that in both of those videos, I talked about the fact that I'm drawn in by books that are set in some type of eatery, like a diner or a cafe or a coffee shop, a tea shop, something like that. I am just completely drawn in to books that have that in the title, and books set in a small town where they have scenes set in the local diner or coffee shop or eatery or whatever. And I was just kind of thinking about why that is, and just sort of analyzing it, and I thought I would chat about that for a minute. And then I wanted to just show you some of the books that I have read that are set in diners, and books I've read that I love that feature scenes in diners. And then I've got several on my shelves that have some type of eating place, eating establishment in the title that I haven't read, and I'm curious to know if you have read those. So let's just get started. Now, the first question I wanted to just think about is, what is it about books set in diners? And what is it about diners and small town restaurants and things like that, or even not even small town restaurants? What is it about restaurants that make it a good place to set a scene? Not just books, but movies and TV shows and things like that. I mean, there are plenty of TV shows that had regular dining establishments that the characters go to, and they know the characters, they know the people that work there, they're regulars. I mean, look at Friends. Going a little farther back, I can't even think of the title now, but it had Paul Reiser and Helen Hunt. They always went to an eating establishment, and the reason I'm thinking about that in terms of Friends is because, of course, Phoebe's twin sister was their waitress, and she was awful. Ursula, yeah. So then there's, of course, lots and lots of movies, and then there are some books that have been made into movies that are set in cafes and diners and eateries and all of that. So one of my favorites, well, actually, I didn't even finish discussing that. So what is it about a diner or a restaurant? Well, especially in a small town place or a place that has regular clientele, it's a place where you can go to find out the news, the local news. I mean, not just on TV watching it, which is, more prevalent lately, but just, chatting with people across the way at the table. Sit down at the bar and chat with the people next to you. And I mean, we have a few restaurants like that where not so much that you talk to the other patrons, but you get to know the people working there, and you can just chat about whatever. Back when I was growing up, we had a small little cafe, and I personally didn't go there very often when I was young because my mom always liked to cook her own meals, so it was a pretty big luxury if we went out to eat anywhere, unless we were, in our county seat town 30 minutes away shopping. I could usually convince her to stop in and get a hamburger somewhere, but that's different. I'm talking about the small town place where you may have a couple of guys, old men sitting out front chewing their cud, you know, and just, you know, reading the paper, saying hello when the people come in and out, or just sitting there having their coffee and just talking about the latest town gossip. So when you're in a book, the diner is a great place to move the story along, because you can learn news, you can learn things about the story and the characters when you're in diners. So I think that's probably a big reason why why authors will utilize eateries in order to further their story along. And I think other reasons are just that people can have conversations over a meal, and you can, again, further the story along. You can enjoy that relaxed time together. Sometimes you can have some really funny things that happen in an eating place or a restaurant. Sometimes you have very negative things happen. Maybe someone is having dinner with someone, and maybe they're married and they're having dinner with someone that is not their spouse, and then their spouse happens to come in and catch them, and then you have a big explosion in the restaurant. So there's all kinds of things that restaurants can set the scene for. And since I read a lot of women's fiction, a lot of small town fiction, I find that diner settings are just so much fun and so wonderful. And back when I did my Bookish Boxes and Buzzwords tag, I talked about how that food in the title is a big one for me. So if you've got an eating establishment and food in the title, then I am probably going to buy that book. You know, I may not buy it when it's brand new, but it's definitely on my radar. It's on my TBR, and eventually, if I find it at a library sale, I'm going to end up buying it. And it will hopefully get read eventually. So anyway, those are just some of the reasons that I think that diners make a good setting for books. I'm sure I haven't touched on all of them. Maybe you have some ideas about what it is about diners that make great book settings. So I just want to talk about a few books in particular that have a diner setting, and just chat about them for a minute. And maybe if there's some of these that you don't know about or haven't read, then you might want to add them to your TBR, or you may know of some that I don't know about, and you can tell me about them in the comments, and I will add them to my TBR. So the one that first comes to mind is, of course, Fried Green Tomatoes at the Whistle Stop Cafe by Fannie Flagg. Now, if you guys have followed me for any length of time, you know that Fannie Flagg is one of my all-time favorite authors. Now, this is not my favorite book by her, but I do really love this book. And it, of course, is set in a small town. It's historical, and it centers around a cafe, the Whistle Stop Cafe, and the two main characters run it. And then all of the other action goes on around it. Now, in this particular community, the Whistle Stop Cafe is probably one of the only businesses. So it is really the only gathering place there. I mean, maybe there's probably a gas station, I don't know, and there maybe is a school. But the diner is really the place where people go to see other people in the community. And so I just think that this is a really good example. Of course, a lot of things happen in this book that don't have anything to do with the Whistle Stop Cafe. There is the whole present day story and all of that. But anyway, this is just a good example of a book that is set at a cafe and a small town, and I just thought I would start with this one. Now, they don't necessarily have to be completely set in a cafe. Some books are set in a small town, and the diner is just one of the places where the locals can meet and where scenes are set in the book. And I wanted to just bring up another good example. This is also one of my all-time favorite books. This is my all-time favorite book series, the Mitford series by Jan Karon. And Percy's Diner in the Mitford series is the local eating place, and Father Tim and a couple of friends always meet there for breakfast regularly. They're called the Turkey Club. There's just a lot of fun conversations that happen there in the diner. And then later on in the series, Percy and his wife decide to retire and close the cafe. And meanwhile, a little tea shop has opened up somewhere else in the town. And these old men cannot bring themselves to go to this tea shop to have lunch. So they end up like getting nabs, I guess, which are crackers, and cherry cola or cheer wine, and they go and eat lunch at the gas station with the owner of the gas station. So, you know, in their case, the diner was just really important to them, and they were just not going to feel at home in what they would consider a frou-frou establishment. So this is just another good example of small town life and where the diner is a really important part of that life. Now I have a few other series where the whole series is set around a tea shop, coffee shop, diner, whatever. Some I have started and some I have not, but one that I have started is the Tea Shop Mysteries by Laura Childs. This whole series is set around a tea shop, and it's, I believe, set in Charleston, and so that just sets the scene for the rest of the series. Now, Laura Childs has a couple of other series, and one of them is called the Cackleberry Club, and that is actually the Cackleberry Club Cafe. And I have not started reading these, but again, with a name like Cackleberry Club, I couldn't resist that. So this just sounds like it's super fun. And then you have several cozy mysteries that are set in coffee shops. We of course have the Coffee House Mysteries by Cleo Coyle. This is set in New York City, and I have read all of these. And then another coffee shop series that I ran across not too long ago is a series by Alex Erickson. And this is even better because this is a bookstore cafe. Every coffee-loving book lover's dream is to have a coffee shop, you know, connected together with a bookshop or a library, and I think this is just perfect. So this is a series I have only picked up a couple of, and I have not started reading them, but again, who could resist that whole bookshop, cafe, coffee house type theme? One other series that I know about, and I have collected 3 of them, is the Tea Room Mysteries. These are published by Guidepost. This is book 1 called Tea Room for 2. So this, of course, is going to be a little more frou-frou-y, as some would describe it, but still it looks beautiful, and it's about tea and a tea shop or a tea room, and I had to start collecting this series as soon as I saw one. A few others that I have read that I will have to show you pictures of because I don't have physical copies. Several of these are on the Audible Escape package, and I have listened to them on audio. One series is a trilogy by Lisa Wingate, and they're all set in Texas. Each one is set in a diner, or it has a diner as kind of a central scene. The trilogy is called Texas Hill Country, and the first book is called Texas Cooking. The second book is called Lone Star Cafe, and the third book is called Over the Moon at the Big Lizard Diner. Each of these books are set in small town Texas, all in the same area, but I believe each one is set in a different diner, probably a different small town, but they're each about women who have had their own big city career experiences, and for whatever reason they end up in this small town and end up starting a romance with a local man. And the series is great. I really enjoyed it. It's very light and fun, and I think it just goes to show what a versatile author that Lisa Wingate is, because for her to write something as fun as the Texas Hill Country series and then turn around and write Before We Were Yours, which is about the Georgia Tan child trafficking history, then, you know, that's just great. I think that she is really an awesome author, and I'm going to be excited to read more books by her. Another author that does small town very well is Jody Thomas. She writes predominantly romance, but most of her romances that I have read have a little bit of romantic suspense mixed in, and she has a couple of standalone books that are set in and around diners. One is called A Little Tea Shop on Main, and it's not my favorite book by her, but again, it's not bad, and it has some great characters and some interesting storylines. And then her newest book, which I think just came out this year, is called Breakfast at the Honey Creek Cafe. So I'm going to be very excited to read that. I have not gotten that. I have not started it yet, but Jodie Thomas is a favorite author of mine, and I'm sure that I will get to that eventually, especially with a title like that. Another one I've read that I thought was very good is by Billy Letts. You may be more familiar with Billy Letts because she wrote Where the Heart Is, which is the story about a young woman who has a baby in Walmart, and there's a movie starring Natalie Portman and Naomi Judd and Stockard Channing, and that's a great story. Well, Billy Letts also wrote a book called Honk and Holler, opening soon, and it's not as good, I didn't think, as Where the Heart Is, but still a very entertaining story. And the funny thing about it is that the name of the cafe was supposed to be Honk and Holler, but somehow the lines got crossed when they were ordering the sign, and the permanent sign said Honk and Holler, opening soon, so that just became the name of the diner. So that's a fun one. It's been years since I read that, and I probably ought to read that again at some point maybe, but anyway, it's just a fun small town story set around a diner. Now, not all diner stories measure up. I did find one by Sandra Dallas called Buster Midnight's Cafe, and I did not enjoy that one. So just because it has cafe in the title doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to love it, but it does mean I'm going to read it. Now, some cafes are nationally known, and I love when actual places are mentioned in the titles of books. One that comes to mind, I thought I had a copy of it and I couldn't seem to put my hand on it, so I will put up a picture. It's called Looking for Salvation at the Dairy Queen, and I listened to that on audio on Hoopla, and I thought it was fantastic. I really, really enjoyed it. And ever since I saw that, I have sort of been drawn in by other books with the word Dairy Queen in the title. Another one I have is by Larry McMurtry, Walter Benjamin at the Dairy Queen. I have not read this one. And then I have a couple of other Dairy Queen type books that don't have anything to do with the restaurant Dairy Queen, but Dairy Queen is in the title, and I have those too. So anyway, it pulls me in, and it doesn't have to be necessarily an eatery, but maybe just some place that has to do with food, like the Piggly Wiggly series by Robert Dalby, Waltzing at the Piggly Wiggly. As soon as I saw one of these books, I knew this was a series that I wanted to read, and I have collected all 4 of these. I'm hoping to get to at least the first one of these this year. And just to perpetuate not the dining theme, but just the actual place theme in a title, I have one other one. I heard about this one on another booktuber's channel, and then lo and behold, it showed up on our library sales shelves, and I had to get it. I think this may be an older one, maybe a classic. Our Spoons Came from Woolworths by Barbara Cummins. So, you know, if it has the name of an actual place in the title and yet it's a fiction book, I'm probably going to be drawn in. And again, for me to actually buy the book, it doesn't necessarily have to be a diner. It can just be other places where people gather that sound quirky and fun. Like I have this one, the first annual Grand Prairie Rabbit Festival. I mean, look at that. Who could resist that? It's by Ken Wheaton, a couple of others. Here's one I have listened to an abridged version of, Patty Jane's House of Curl by Lorna Landvik. This one was pretty good. And while not an eating establishment, it's a drive-in where they have refreshments, so this counts. The Starlight Drive-In by Marjorie Reynolds. I haven't read this, but it looks super cute. And then here's one that, again, it just sounds quirky. Faith Bass Darling's Last Garage Sale. So any kind of quirky, fun, small town kind of thing where people are going to gather, I'm probably going to be pulled in. But let's get back to the whole dining thing. I have a few others on my shelf that I have not read, and the whole complete sole reason that I got these books is because they have some type of dining, eating establishment in the title. I have the Irresistible Blueberry Bake Shop Cafe. Well, I shouldn't say the whole reason. Also, this has food on the cover, and so I'm going to be pulled in by that. And here's another one, Tea House on Mulberry Street by Sharon Owens. So again, that looks super cute. I don't know anything about it. I think I got 2 copies of that when I first got that, and I sent one to my sister, and she read it, and I think she said it was okay. It wasn't like a favorite, but it was okay. And then I have The Supremes at Earl's All You Can Eat. This is by Edward Kelsey Moore, and again, this just looks so fun. I have one on my Kindle that I first heard about on Sarah's channel from Steeped in Books, and I immediately went to my Kindle and I bought it. It's called New Starts and Cherry Tarts at the Cozy Kettle. It's by Liz Ellis, or Elise, and I mean, the cover is great, the title is great, I just couldn't resist it. And I went through my TBR on Goodreads, all 800 and something of them, and I just pulled out a few others that I have put on my TBR because they have a cafe setting. One is called The Grand Reopening of the Dandelion Cafe by Jenny Oliver, and I think that whole series looks adorable. Then there's The Tea Shop on the Corner by Millie Johnson. Again, super cute, and I can't wait to get to that. Summer at the Castle Cafe by Donna Ashcroft. That's the first in the Castle Cove series, and the cover is just so cute. So far there's only 2 of those, and the second one looks equally cute. The Little Christmas Tea Shop of Second Chances. I mean, I cannot resist books like that. Then there's another 2-book series called Vivian's Heavenly Ice Cream Shop series, and book 1 is Vivian's Heavenly Ice Cream Shop, and book 2 is The Heavenly Italian Ice Cream Shop by Abby Clements. So those look super cute. I'm hoping that there's going to be more of those, and you know, I can't resist books like that. Another one that I've read that I want to be sure and mention is Brunch at the Bittersweet Cafe. It's book 2 in the Saturday Night Supper Club, and all 3 of the books so far are food-centric, but the Bittersweet Cafe is the one that is most set in an actual cafe. A few other series just to mention: The Donut Shop Mysteries by Jessica Beck. I've got the first 6 or 7 of those, and that is a huge series. The Amish Sweet Shop Mysteries, and I'm not sure who that's by. I'll put a picture up so you can see who the author is. The Seaside Cafe Mysteries by Bree Baker, and The Lemon Tree Cafe by Kathy Bramley. So those are just a few of the books and series that I know about that have a cafe theme or a restaurant theme, and let me know about any others that you know of that you think I would enjoy. Of course, you know, I like to keep things clean for the most part, and I don't know that all of these are clean. Some of these I simply am just interested in because of the title and the covers. I'm sure that what I've shown today is a wide range from clean to spicy. So let me know if you know anything about any of these that I haven't read, and any others that you think I might be interested in. So let's chat in the comments, and I hope to talk to you again soon. I hope you're having a great day, read a good book, and God bless you.